Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Mighty Stream, and I'm going to do your June the 23rd, just for today, in a meditation. If you need to reach me, feel free to do so at recoveryofhope21@gmail.com. I look forward to hearing from you, or just leave a comment down below. And as soon as I see it, I promise you I will respond. Okay, the title of today's meditation is Surrender. We didn't stumble into this fellowship brimming with love, honesty, open mindedness, or willingness. When we were beaten, we became willing. That comes from the basic text, page 20. Surrender may be the necessary foundation for recovery, but sometimes we fight it. Most of us look back after some clean time and wonder why on earth we fought so hard to deny our powerlessness when surrender is what finally saved our lives. As we recover, new opportunities to surrender present themselves. We can either struggle with everyone and everything we encounter, or we can recall the benefits of our first surrender and stop fighting. Most of the pain we experience comes from fighting, not surrendering. In fact, when we surrender, the pain ends and hope takes its place. We begin to believe that all will be well, and after some time, realize that our lives are much better as a result. We feel the same way we did when we gave up the illusion that we could control our using, relieved, free, and filled with fresh hope. Just for today, is there a surrender I need to make today? I will remember my first surrender and remind myself that I don't need to fight anymore. Let's take a moment of silence followed by the we version of Serenity Prayer. Moment of silence now, please. Thank you. God, grant us the serenity to accept the things that we cannot change, the courage to change the things that we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Just for today, please and thank you. Surrender, right? And it's true. I mean, when we reflect on our first days of coming back into the fellowship, and unfortunately, not just our first days, there's times periodically throughout our recovery, we're not brimming with love, honesty, open-mindedness, or willingness. We might brim with common sense now that, you know what? Doing the opposite of this, doing the opposite of surrendering, right? Fighting, struggling, trying to control everything, trying not to use on our own. All of that other stuff that is the exact opposite on the other end of the pendulum, right? As it swings to the far left, all of that other stuff that's over there is the opposite of surrender. And unfortunately for me, surrender was not something, I thought it was enough to stop using drugs. I thought that was plenty. Anything after that, I could not for sure tell you, because I couldn't tell you that I would stop doing all of the other behaviors, because I clearly did not for years. I still had this image, this false image of self that I needed to present. So beyond just not using drugs, and that was a great start. Everything else I held on to because I thought that it would be impossible to unravel this web of deceit that I had created, not only for myself, but for others. Oh, they depend on me now. They believe this story about me. They would depend on me. or I can't let them know that I have this weakness. They'll use it against me. All of that deceitfulness that is going around ruminating in my head, it made it very difficult to come clean, completely clean. You've ever heard someone say, come clean? Come clean, right? They're telling you, tell the truth. And so it was a work in progress. It was something that I had to do over a period of time. I had to understand that being vulnerable and surrendering and letting go of trying to control everyone and everything was not my best interest. It was not my, listen to this, it was not my responsibility. I'm not responsible for what people are thinking about me. Now, my personal behavior might create some thoughts that they might have about me, but I'm not responsible for what they think about me. Whether they like me, I'm not responsible for whether they dislike me. I'm not responsible for whether or not they want to talk about me behind my back. It doesn't change my responsibility for surrendering and being authentic. It doesn't change any of that. And does it hurt when you're not accepted? Absolutely. But to the extent that I would give up my personal freedom of not needing to turn to a substance or a person or an organization to change the way that I feel. The only thing in my life today that has that kind of power is God. And I'm not ashamed to say that. And I hope you aren't either. We gave so many other things power, and it rendered us powerless because we really had no control over those things anyway. So now today I get to surrender and I experience less pain. And is it a struggle sometimes? Absolutely. When you got people that you love and they can't get this program that you've always been involved with all of their lives. I mean, I have people in my family that have never known me to be high. They've always known me to be a part of this program. But it doesn't stop them from needing to live their own experience, bump their own heads, and deal with their own bottoms as a result of the disease of addiction. And that is a bitter pill to swallow. I think you understand that, right? That's just another example of not being able to control what other people do, but assuming the responsibility for it and feeling the agony of not being able to change it. This is why the serenity prayer is so powerful. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can myself, and the wisdom to know the difference. And I just want to say, even changing myself is somewhat limited when we start talking about character defects, right? Because we humbly ask God to remove these shortcomings from us. So even in being able to change myself in some of the most critical areas, there still has to be a level of humility and surrender to God, to my higher power. your higher power. I'm going to use the term God because it fits what goes on in my life, right? But whoever your HP is, it has to have, right? Whoever your HP is, has to have enough power to actually remove your shortcomings. You got to have that faith. And if you don't, I don't know what else to say. I have faith in my God. And it's not a perfect faith, but it's a right on time faith. It's not a perfect faith. Because when I look at some of the situations going on that are indirectly affecting me, don't think that I don't get angry sometimes. I absolutely do. But when I investigate the reason why I'm upset, why didn't God save my sister from that overdose on fentanyl? Let's take a look at that, because this is the type of stuff that we are really talking about that causes individuals to pull away from the God of their so-called understanding. So when I think about my sister and I get angry that it took 3 days for her to be found, and I think about all the other times I was involved in CPR with her, all of the other overdoses that she survived, and God used me to be present in a moment. And now I think about this time that I was nowhere around. Now, when I investigate the anger, and this is what we have to do here, we have to get in here and roll our sleeves up and really take a look at what it is that has us on edge, what it is that is actually causing the dissonance between ourselves and God. When I look at that situation, let me tell you what I really find at the core of it. At the core of it, I find that I felt I let her down. I was there all those other times. But at that season of my life, there was no way that I could have been present even if I wanted to. And I feel I let her down. And my anger with God is, if you could have me present all those other times, it seemed like you could have made arrangements for me to just be in town. So that I would have been present for that, babysitting and watching her every move. That's codependent, folks. That's codependency. Which is absolutely rooted in a character defect of fear, needing to control everything and everyone. So I don't have to deal with the loss, fearing the loss, feeling the impact of other people making their own choices and having their own consequences, and those consequences impacting me and devastating me and rendering me lifeless. And so when I investigate it doesn't have a firm foundation. It doesn't stand the test of validity. It does not. It's impossible for me to ask God to remove my shortcomings, become entirely ready for these character defects. And step 6, to be removed from me, remove my shortcomings, which is always having to have my hands in mess that don't belong to me, so that I can see the end results that I want to see, so that my life can go on and carry on. How self-centered is that? The way that I want it to, my life can carry on peacefully the way that I want it to. So I need to be present. How dare you not allow me to be present, to do CPR on her, to minister Narcan? How dare you not allow that to be present? And now I have to deal with her absence from my life for the rest of my life. And angry that someone else made their own decisions, and their own decisions this time didn't work out for them. Jails, institutions, and death. 2 people introduced me to Narcotics Anonymous. That sister and a niece of mine. 2 people. And I ended up with more clean time than both of them put together. And one, fortunately, has well over a decade clean today. But the other one, my sister, she is not here because she took her will back into her life. And unfortunately, this is what we're dealing with. The drugs in the streets back then and the drugs in the streets today aren't the same, because now they're lacing everything with fentanyl. And one hit is one hit too many, and enough to kill 50 people. Yeah. The chances we're taking on relapse today are not the same chances that relapse was about even 20 years ago. And she's been gone since 2015. So almost a decade of having to wake up day after day after day after day, wishing I could call my sissy and have a conversation with her. So the point is, if you're still listening at this stage, bless you. The point is that the surrender is a way better, far better way of living for me than not surrendering. And that it's not that I don't surrender or struggle with surrender or struggle with faith, as I just demonstrated for you. There's times I don't have a perfect faith, guys. I don't. And there are times when I am angry with my God over situations that impact me and nearly take my faculty of thinking away from me. That takes the very breath out of my body sometimes, because it's riddled with agony and grief. Don't think I don't go through that. I understand it. I get it. I get it. Honest, I do. I get it. You're hurting. You're angry. Your faith in God is not what you think it should be because of that pain and that hurt. I get it. And that's why surrender is so appealing. Because even in my dissonance, sometimes I'm able to look at it for what it really is, see it for what it really is, and understand that we all make choices. And sometimes we choose wrong, and sometimes the consequences behind those choices, even though in our minds it was minute, have heavy consequences. They told me that the disease of addiction without surrender lands in jails, institutions, and death, and not necessarily in that order. And how many of us are listening today that have had to live through the loss of a loved one? and question, could I have done more? 9 times out of 10, we could have done more. But 9 times out of 10, that more that we keep doing is very codependent and evidence of a lack of surrender. My name is Mighty Stream. I've enjoyed talking to you today. I know it went a bit heavy. I know that it went a bit heavy. But that's where I'm at today. That is exactly where I am at today. I hope that you will have a beautiful day on purpose. Walk in surrender. Remember your initial surrender of coming into the fellowship and what that felt like and how it has benefited you today. And as you come upon situations that you can choose actually to surrender or not surrender, let your first surrender be an example of how much beauty can actually come into your life, how much freedom, how much peace can actually come into your life with ongoing surrender and just one more decision to surrender yet again. I will be talking to you tomorrow. In the meantime, have a beautiful day on purpose. I intend to. I'm looking forward to it. Talk to you soon.